Welcome back, analysts. Today we'll be talking about our second matchup of the NFL wildcard weekend, and that will be between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. As we did last time, we will be starting with the away team, which will be the Green Bay Packers. Now, this for me is the most unfortunate team in the playoffs by far, and that is because Green Bay does not have a mascot. If it was up to me, they wouldn't have made the playoffs in the first place because I don't understand as an NFL team how you do not have a mascot. I mean, that's missing a vital player of your team. It's like trying to bake a cake without the eggs or trying to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the bread, right? Like, how can this makes no sense to me, truly. I am an NFL mascot analyst by night, but by day, weekday, that is, I am a psychologist. And so I wanted to get to the root of it, to understand the why and to understand the psychology behind how the Green Bay Packers came to this decision. And in doing so, there are a good bit of things that we will discuss that helps to make sense a little bit of this decision that otherwise makes no sense. And so we will jump right into the history. So the Packers started with an unofficial mascot who was a human, a person named Robert Wagner. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened. We've seen other teams last year that had unofficial mascots that were people that just kind of dressed up and then they eventually just named them their mascot. Right? So this was the case with Robert Wagner as well, who went by the name Gangrene. Don't ask me, I don't know. And so as you can see, starting in 1978, he would roam the stands in these kind of green clothes, a green wig, and green face paint. Now, this is something he did for some time but was no longer allowed to do so, however, and was actually arrested once for doing so when their new mascot came onto the scene. That's right, they actually did have a mascot at one point, and his name was Packy Packer. So this was the mascot from 1984 through 1986, and he was a bearded butcher and carried sausages. At first, I thought, okay, this mascot makes no sense. I mean, if we're talking about clarity, hello, what does this have to do at all with the Green Bay Packers? Until I understood where the Packers got their name in the first place. Now, the founder, Curly Lambeau, worked as a shipping clerk for a meatpacking company and asked them for donations to get equipments and uniforms, and they even let him borrow their football field as well, Lambeau Field. So, what better way to pay homage to who helped him start his team than by naming the team after him, the Green Bay Packers? Now, the mascot further makes sense when you Google the term meatpacking and find out that this means to slaughter, process, and package livestock for consumption. So, when we think about it, I mean, what better mascot than a butcher, honestly? Now, you might be wondering, well, why was he discontinued, right? He's not the only human mascot that we have. We'll actually talk about a few in this year in our mascot matchup. But it was discontinued because the costume was too heavy and hot and caused heat exhaustion for the person inside the suit. So actually, during a game, he had to leave, Packy Packer, had to leave during the second quarter for this very reason. Now, as we know, football has four quarters. So if he had to leave during the second before halftime, that is not a good sign. But what happened to if at first you don't succeed, try and try again, right? I mean, I'm sure this wasn't that difficult of a fix. Pop some holes in the costume in places where people can't see, get some ventilation going, right? Why did they just give up? Well, there's also some information around that too. And so the Packers fans generally didn't like Packy Packer. So that might have to do in part that with the, I believe, coach at the time, somebody associated with the team, I think the coach, said on national TV, and I quote, "Most of the people who are Packer fans are short, fat butchers with big feet." Now, after saying that, I mean, I can't really imagine why people wouldn't really like and actually hate a mascot that's supposed to represent low key how they look. Yikes. Okay. So if I was one of these fat butcher fans, I would also want Packy Packer to go. And so he did. So Packy Packer was out. This was the first and only history of this mascot, but we still have more. So then the Packers decided to bring in another current unofficial mascot, a 12-year-old Chihuahua named Vinny James, who travels in a football cooler and is a beloved unofficial game day fixture at Lambeau Field for almost an entire decade. People get very excited when they can spot Vinny and take pictures with Vinny, has its own Instagram page. And so that is their current kind of unofficial mascot, the same way Gangrene was very unofficial. But what most of us know the Packers for, when we think of Packers, what first comes to mind is the cheesehead, an iconic symbol for the Green Bay Packers and what is now really taking place of a mascot. But the thing is, the cheesehead wasn't even started by them. Okay? A fan of the Milwaukee Brewers at the time named Ralph Bruno created the cheesehead in 1987 for that team. So he made it from the foam of his couch and wore it as a way to reclaim being called a cheesehead, since folks of Chicago would often call them that in a derogatory fashion. So, in a sense, this is his way of reclaiming, kind of like reclaiming the N word or reclaiming the word queer, right? He wanted to reclaim cheesehead. And he eventually created a company that allowed this cheesehead to spread Wisconsin wide and to be able to start to sell it. So, not only does Green Bay consider a prop, because that's what the cheesehead is, a prop, not only do they consider a prop their mascot, but it was stolen. It wasn't even for them. And I just really dislike this. I mean, as we know, there's so many teams where a prop might be associated with them. So, for instance, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have the terrible towel that is associated with them as a prop, although they also have a mascot. But at least in that sense, we know it's integrally connected with their city, with their team. It's created in part by, well, not in part, really created by Myron Cope, who was a kind of radio announcer, radio analyst at the time. And during one of the games that they were playing, he was encouraging people. He said, it's going to be a hard game. Come out and support the Steelers. Take your yellow tea towels, take your yellow dish rags, and bring them to the game, and let's support our boys, right? And that's how the terrible towel was born. And so if it's a story like that, I can appreciate and I wouldn't have so much anger towards the prop as much being the mascot, but there isn't anything like that. And to make it even more confusing, you'll even see they have items for sale, things like bobbleheads and such, that has a cow as their representative. So it's like either shit or get off the pot, right? I mean, if you want a cow to be your mascot, make it your official mascot. I mean, which would make sense because, again, the meat packaging. So even having a cow as their mascot would make a lot of sense. So I hate this riding the fence and trying to get the best of both worlds, like trying to have your cake and eat it too. I don't like this. And so, I mean, since they don't even have a mascot, they are clearly disqualified. And so by default, the Chicago Bears mascot is going to have to be the winner of this one, but we will still go into and hear more about this mascot for ourselves so we can decide, do we like this mascot? Okay. So moving on to the Chicago Bears, who, thank God, do have a mascot, and the Green Bay is the only team that we will have in this year's playoff that does not have one. And so the nightmare's over. We will not have to talk about any teams further that don't have a mascot. And so going into this, the name of Chicago's mascot is Staley the Bear. I think it's Staley, maybe it's Stolly. I'm going to say Staley. Staley the Bear. So let's go into our initial thoughts are right off the bats. Initial thought on cuteness. I do not think this mascot is cute, respectfully. And, in thinking about the rating, I would give him a 2 out of 10, mostly just because I gave the Chiefs their mascot, Casey Wolf, I gave him a 1, and I can't in good conscience rank Staley or most any mascots below Casey Wolf. So kind of by default, he's getting a 2 out of 10. Now, in terms of the clarity category, he really picks us back up in the fact that, I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10. I mean, you look at him and this is a bear, obviously. Not much more I can say about that. Very, very clear. So good job, Staley. And unfortunately for this category, I think I did ask Iris, but I didn't write down a response, but I think she said the same thing in terms of a brown bear. So in terms of the clarity as well for Iris, gotta give him a 10 out of 10. And then moving into the creativity category. So this one, I'm gonna have to give Staley a 3 out of 10. And that's because when we look at the name, so he's named after the Staley part comes from their founder, A.E. Staley. And De Bears, it's not just because he's a bear and they wanted to make it a little more Chicago. I mean, Chicago has a big rap scene and such and hip hop. And so kind of De Bear could be a little bit more in there, like we have De Baby, etc. It's not even actually because of that. It's a catchphrase used by somebody who was on SNL in the past and was a Bears super fan. And so he would often yell De Bears in some kind of sketch that he was doing. And so they pulled it from that. That adds a little bit of points because they got it from, kinda got it from the skit and then pulling it a little bit from the last name, but it's pretty simple of a construction. You get it from your founder's last name, Staley, and it is a bear, so saying "da bear." It's not as bad though as KC Wolf, I mean, Kansas City Wolf, and so well, it's not even a wolf, Kansas City Chiefs, but the mascot is a wolf, and so still gonna give it a 3 out of 10, so overall kind of more disappointing right off the bats. Then going into history, so he debuted in 2003, wasn't preceded by any other mascot, so Staley is one of one, and in terms of history, before becoming a professional mascot, what we know is that he attended Bearsley Academy, and this is where he met his bear BFFs, Pooh, Smokey, and Yogi. So from a young age, associated himself with greatness, associated himself with people that were focused as well about making a difference, making an impact, and the rise to fame, which likely pushed him in this direction. And he was also voted by his high school class as most likely to become a mascot, which means that he showed very early initial promise and was something that he was knowing that he was wanting to do for some time, and was also voted to have best hair. Was just this another little fun fact. Now, Staley didn't go to college because at this time, unfortunately, bears are still outlawed from going to college, but this was a desire that he had, but instead pointed his talents towards becoming a mascot. So that is what we know in the history of Staley. Moving on to the uniqueness. Now, this is definitely something that is unique. And for people that are Chicago fans, I would be remiss if I didn't discuss this. Something that I'm going to term, and it might not be me, I might have seen it somewhere, but I can't pull back up where if I did see it. But something I'm terming the Staley Scoot, which is this kind of butt bouncing that he frequently does at his games. And there's no reason for it really. Like, it doesn't come from anything related to the Bears or to Chicago. It's just a fun thing that he does to energize the fans and to have them kind of get into it. And I wanted to be able to show you all a couple clips of him doing this scoot just for you to see the sheer number of times that he does this and how integral it is to him as a mascot. I mean, as we can see, like he does it on the field, for instance, maybe it's even during a halftime or after they have scored a point. He will even do it at some like community events. I try to find the video, but he also had done it at a concert and he does it for long periods of time. I mean, he broke a record for doing this scoot for 40 yards one time. And the videos that I'm putting up aren't even all the times that he's done this. It's just a small bit. I think he does it at every single game. And so in terms of uniqueness, I mean, hey, you did create a market for yourself, Staley. I will say no other mascots are doing this. That's for sure. Now, going into the accolades, in terms of Pro Bowls, we do have two sources that cite very different numbers of Pro Bowl appearances. So the first is the Chicago Bears. Their official site says that he has attended 5 Pro Bowls. However, the NFL Mascot Hall of Fame, which, although he's not in the Mascot Hall of Fame, part of their role is to just get information about the different mascots in general, even if they're not in it. They cited double that number, saying that Staley has been to 10 Pro Bowls. This is a huge discrepancy. So anywhere from 5 to 10, which is still pretty decent number because we know we have mascots getting lower than that. He did win NFL Mascot Video of the Year in 2016. In 2017 and 2019, they have the NFL Mascot Summit, which is where they win the things like Video of the Year, Skit of the Year, and he won the Social Media Post of the Year award, which is huge because, as we know, this is one of our most important categories. So 2017 and 19, Social Media Post of the Year. And he did win a gold medal in rock, paper, scissors and a silver in the staring contest during a past Celebrity Mascots Olympics, doing Team USA proud. And so, as we know with the Olympics, these are people from all over the country that gather. So they even had mascots like from other countries. So Staley was the one selected for the US and won gold and silver in categories. I mean, that's pretty amazing. As far as I know, we don't have any other Olympians amongst our NFL mascots. So that is definitely a point in Staley's box there. And lastly, we do see that he was, although I just said he didn't win mascot or was not inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame, he was nominated in 2023. Unfortunately, he was destined to be a bridesmaid and not the bride, but at least the nomination is huge. I mean, that's saying that, hey, we're seeing some of the things that you're doing, but it's just saying you're not good enough to actually make it to that grand stage. So, sorry about that, Staley. Going into the social media presence, he is very active on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, which, I mean, kind of crazy. Facebook, right? But, I mean, mascots, their role is to engage with all aspects of the community. So, whether that be Gen Z, millennials, boomers, Gen X, I mean, he wants to engage with everybody. So, I appreciate him having a Facebook and being very active for that regard. And while having a much smaller following, he remains incredibly active. One of the things that I really love that he does on his Instagram are these almost game day posts. He does it like in the font of the Sunday Scaries. Sunday Scaries kind of made it popular with these different pictures that they'll do and that people will post when they slam your laptop shut on Fridays and people will kind of repost that in their story. He does these almost game days. So before each game, he'll do a post of this and I love it because it's unique to him and then it helps the fans be able to engage because now you have something that you can post on your story as well if you want. So I really like that he kind of created his own niche, his own series in Instagram based on something very relevant and very popular that we were seeing in our time. So great job, Staley. If I was a Chicago Bears fan, I definitely would have reposted one of these almost game days. So great job. And he is also very consistent in posting his community involvement and programs on his Instagram page, which we love to see in terms of social media being used for good. I said Rampage does this well, but Staley probably even better does this. And speaking of community engagement, let's talk a bit about that. So Staley is a strong lover of and supporter of the Chicago community. He frequently visits hospitals of patients and families and in 2024 to 2025 year, so last year, visited 100 hospitals. 100 hospitals. He was part of a day where they visited new mothers in the hospital and gave them gift bags and such, so he even held some babies. He participated in the My Cause, My Cleats campaign, which we know for players, there's a week where they have different cleats where they'll support different causes that people can give to and bring awareness to different things. And as far as I know, I haven't really done a lot of research into this, but I don't think I've seen other mascots that participate in this. That could be wrong, but I don't think so. So that was nice to see him participate in the My Cause, My Cleats campaign. He also helps give out toys to kids on Christmas, has done that a couple times, and does a great job in general about using his social media to promote partnerships that have campaigns that are engaging in charitable works. So maybe it's not something he's directly a part of, but maybe it's some kind of organization in Chicago that's doing something to help out the community. He will post something about them as well. And also on his social media, we see, much like Sir Purr, that he does have a link in his Instagram bio that takes you to a page and you can click on, for instance, school assemblies and you can book him for events like their Bear Down on Bullies events where they explain the different types of bullies, the forms, and ways to positively manage being bullied. Also, for that, he helps elementary school kids with reading, so folks can book him for their school to help with that. And they even have a program focused around physical health for younger kids. And so I love that in his social media that is present, that is still the main thing on his heart is to help the community. Now, bringing back in our other expert, one of our analysts, USA Today, wanted to look at what he was ranked. Again, we unfortunately, Green Bay can't do this for them since they do not have a mascot. But looking at Staley, we see that he is ranked 13 out of 28. Now, thinking about where our other mascots that we've done last year or even more recently, where they fare, this is 2 above Rory of the Detroit Lions, 3 above Swoop of the Philadelphia Eagles, and then 7 above Sir Purr. Now, I think this is way too high. I mean, 13 out of 28 is close to the middle, to be fair, but these are some great top tier mascots that I named. This seems too high for me. I think this is another maybe swing and a miss from our experts this time around. So this perplexes me a bit. But as I mentioned, because of the disqualification on the part of the Green Bay Packers, this is going to be our winning mascot in this matchup. I'm going to have to pick Staley the Bear and the Chicago Bears to win out over the Green Bay Packers. Now, I mean, even if they did have Packy Packer on their side, I'd probably still have to pick Staley because if you can't even make it through 2 quarters, then you're not gonna be able to outlast the full game, and as we know, you have to be able to do that. I mean, the second half of football is often the most important part, and so even if they had a mascot, I would still pick Staley DeBear in this situation, but hopefully he does make it through this round, that way we can actually match him up against some true competition and see how he would fare. But thank you all once again for joining me for another edition of our mascot matchup, and we will be back for the other matchups that we have on Sunday.